So the black one was on the back on this pump and the blue one was on the front. We're going to keep that the same way.
So that's something that wasn't provided in the kit, right?
Yeah, so we're not in the kit unless I missed it in there, but we're reusing these O-rings, which is standard practice on these.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
It's pretty standard practice to reuse the O-rings on these because they don't really get a lot of, they're just sealing oil against a, you know, crankcase vent pressure, so static basically.
So you said
that's there.
The black one was on
the back.
On the back.
And you can see that on the grooves right here. You can see where the blue is there and then there's no black here.
Okay.
So we just reoriented them the same exact way.
Got it.
And the adapter already comes on the CP3 with a new gear and everything's already torqued and ready to go. So you don't have to mess with the gears like you did on a previous CP3.
Okay.
When you went to a stroker pump or something. So, all right, there's that. Now we need to
pull those through.
Yeah. Gotta get this little rubber guy to come out.
Huh.
And we've got the plates sitting the same. So this is actually, you can see the difference in this plate. If you set that one like that and you set this one. So that's what they're doing to get the ECM away.
Okay.
So they're gonna go like this. And we're gonna pull this guy in like that. There's one. I just like to put everything exactly where it was.
Right. Do them side by side so you don't mix it up.
Last thing you want to do is get everything installed and go to put your ECM in and then have to pull your plate back off because you missed a grommet and you can't figure out why stuff doesn't fit.
I would say you might be talking out of experience there.
Potentially, yes.
Make sure when you take those out, don't tear them.
No, just use a little bit of finesse.
Right.
This one's a little bit of a pain to get.
It's a little bit.
It's in the hole. If you put hair around it, it'd be better. These deep ones, it's actually, that was easier than trying to put. Most of you guys aren't going to have this at home. I might not even have the right size one. Yep, I do. So you can use 2 nuts stacked on a stud. I have a stud puller for a 8mm stud. And this will allow me to just go and grab them and pull out the CP3 stud.
So those 3 nuts that you took off, now you're pulling the studs out?
Yep, because we're going to use bolts.
That were provided in the kit?
Yep.
Now he's removing the 3 studs that were holding the CP4 in, and So for the common guy, what would be an easy way to pull these out?
Take the two nuts and then run them onto the same stud, jam them together, and then just roll them out that way.
Okay.
That's the fastest, easiest way. Or a pair of vice grips. The studs aren't going to get reused.
I was about to say vice grips because since I'm not extremely mechanically inclined, I would have grabbed a pair of vice grips. But that's not the best way to do it. Lock jamming nuts together and pulling them out like that's probably the better way to do it. But if you have to, vice grips, because they're not going to be reused.
So normally you take two nuts, you run this one in backwards, run it in backwards, run the other one in forwards. That way you don't sandwich it and can't get a nut on the hex or a wrench on the hex. Lock it, this inside nut, back it off so it's constantly staying tight, and just use this inside nut to take it off.
Ah, okay.
Break them loose, move to the next one.
Thanks for going over that.
Whoop. So we're going to go to the instructions.
Page 11, we are on page 11.
Let's see. Apply a small amount of lubricant to the countersink taper on the aluminum flange to reduce friction between the bolt head and the flange while torquing. Apply liquid thread locker to the bolts and tighten all three bolts evenly so the bolts heads center of the flange, seat all the way down. Final torque 18 foot-pounds after lightly tightening each evenly. It doesn't say anything about putting sealant against it in the block. I think I'm going to, because I don't want to have an oil leak on this truck. I'm just going to do a very, very light layer of sealant right around here, and then we'll mount it and we'll do some lube right here.
Makes sense.
Do the lube right here before we go. Just got some ARP torque lube.
Because it's quite the process to take this off if you had a slight oil leak, so you might as well just play it safe.
Yeah. So we put a really small amount of lube right there, so that when the bolts go for their countersink, they're gonna just.
Alright, so I had to change out the battery. The only thing that we missed was him putting Loctite on and tightening up those two bolts.
Well,
or installing one that he just dropped. See, guys, aren't you glad we don't edit this stuff?
yeah. This inside one
looks like it might be a little kind of a pain to line up.
Yeah.
So it'd probably be best to line up the front two and then work on the back one.
Yeah.
Definitely don't want to use that for an alignment one since it's so hard to get to.
Yeah.
Just my uneducated mechanic thought. So I highly recommend to keep all the caps on the pump while you're installing it, so there's no contaminants in it.
Even though I just knocked one off.
Even get to, guys, but don't use an electric or an air wrench, ratchet wrench to tighten it. Just have a little bit of patience. Yeah, because you definitely don't want to cross thread it. And I'm just speaking out of experience. My patience, I would have got an air wrench on it or a electric wrench. Definitely struggle in the back one. Have a little bit of patience. Now you use the electric wrench to pull it out. Put a little bit of Loctite on it. And he's starting it by hand, and then he will definitely get it started by hand. Even though they're a pain, like I said, to get to, it's definitely save you a lot of time.
When you edit this, are you going to change it to the Morgan Freeman voice?
Ooh, the Morgan Freeman voice?
I could.
No, dude, the crazy redhead off of Wedding Crashers. I find you.
Put that in there when you drop the bolt.
No, that's Samuel Jackson when he drops the bolts.
What you talking about, Wolf?
What you talking about? The instructions say for
20 foot-pounds.
20 foot-pounds.
I've never seen this.
It's getting all serious in the video. Probably wipe the dust off the torque wrench before it started.
You put new batteries in it.
He did put new batteries in it, actually.
You were saying that, I'm trying not to bust out laughing. Last time I used this torque wrench was 1950. Looks like Betty White's box getting dusted off.
I'm just waiting for the pump to fall off. Now you can actually torque it.
Yeah, because normally they're really tight.
Well, that's like front covers. They say through 19 to 20 foot pounds. And if you do, they all rattle.
You get a special little Justin.